In 1919, he hit 29 home runs and was sold to the New York Yankees.
A 3-run home run for Buffington. The Yankees now lead it by a score of 3-2.
Bill Lee is now going over to a couple of the Yankees, and there they go again.
Ball hits it to deep left. That might send the Yankees to the World Series.
Varitek and A-Rod going at it. Roberts is going. Posada's throw. Roberts safe.
And what can I say? Just tip my hat and call the Yankees my daddies.
Welcome to Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports. You know the players. John Senecal, Brian Shackman here, episode 151. We usually like a little check-in. I like the regular check-in on your son, Jackson, in his senior high school year. I know the team is doing okay. I know he's doing okay. You have, senior day this week. Mm-hmm. I'm just, as a dad, I know your wife is all emotional. What is it like for you as a dad to go through this whole thing?
It's interesting because he went through the soccer thing already because he played that in the fall, right. and
But he likes baseball more.
Yeah, and then I think that's always been our connection too. He kind of turned me into a soccer person, where baseball was always my love, and that's
right.
always been what him and I shared as much as other things. But honestly, dude, I think it's going to be really hard.
And your younger son's not into that, right? He's not good. He's not as good, correct?
He's just as good, if not better, probably.
Really? So you have something else coming down the street,
right? But
then.
it's your first one, and you watch him, you watch the struggles, you watch the peaks, you watch the valleys. And he's had some good stuff this year, and he had the big hit where he tied the game, and then they walked it off against East Granby, where former guest Ray Fagnet's kid he did it against, and that kid's going D1, and they played at Duncan Park, so there's the memories, right? But then you also see the hard times. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for senior game. It's going to be tough.
John Senecal.
Well, I mean,
He's gonna cry.
I'm not an emotional guy,
No.
But I think there may be a tear. There might be a tear welled up,
yeah.
and
he's such a good kid too.
He is a good kid, and I think he lobbied for his younger brother, who's a freshman who plays on the JV team, to be up on the roster today.
Oh, is that going to happen?
And I think it is happening. And
I didn't know they were tight like that.
Yeah, so there's, as much as siblings fight, there's always that bond,
that underlying love.
So if that does happen, that's going to make it even better. I don't know if he'll play, but excuse me, Austin, the younger one, plays shortstop for the JV team, and he plays second in the summer leagues. If they were playing,
he could sub in for his brother.
Well, he could sub in and play. He could play second, and they could be playing together.
Turn it together.
Yeah, I'd probably lose my what.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
your camera will be going.
Oh yeah,
that's
and
awesome.
someone right at that point, the ump or the third base coach will walk in front of the shot, it has happened a million other times. But yeah, it's going to be different for sure. It's going to be it's a sign of closing of the book.
All right, so let's get to the season. Yankees, Red Sox. I mean, obviously the Red Sox are barely hanging on over 500. The run differential actually isn't that bad, but they go down to Atlanta and they see what real baseball teams can do, and it is what it is. I mean, for me, Cora said this about when he wants to see Sale pitch in Fenway and get that ovation or whatever. I think that as a Boston fan, I have real mixed emotions. I mean, he's 5-1. His ERA is under 3. He struck out 10 Red Sox, to beat them this week. I like Sale's competitiveness. Everyone who's in the business says he did everything he could to get back on the field. I don't know, but it just seems weird that all of a sudden he's great. You know what I mean? All of a sudden everything's good and he's crushing it for a really good team. I'm very bittersweet. I know he was on the 18 team, but I don't know. It's hard to dislike a guy who's so intense, but it just sucks. His career in Boston was so crappy.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Chris Sale is, I feel like he's one of those pitchers who, unfortunately, got that contract, and he most of those years were injured, right? And then now he's finally getting his little healthy spurt on the back end of his career, where he's probably not going to be more than a 2-year guy, but just
probably
based
true.
on his body and his build and his history. And he's just, he's on a good team, like you said, and he struck a little bit of lightning. But listen, Chris Sale has always been a good pitcher. It's always just been about health, right? So now he's healthy. And listen,
which is ironic, the timing of him being healthy kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. It sucks for a Red Sox fan, but listen, the Braves have a lot of issues themselves. I mean, there's really nobody, and they're not the powerhouse in the AL East that they thought, because the Phillies are coming to play, and their hitters aren't hitting. The only one hitting is Marcell Ozuna. Really, the big three, Olsen and Riley and Acuna, aren't really hitting that well or up to snuff. So, and their pitching, they got hurt with their pitching. So, it's a different story there. And Chris Sale is actually getting a chance to shine there. So, you know, and the crazy numbers. I saw this, and they said Chris Sale's start against the Red Sox, he threw 37 pitches, 18 which were induced a swing, 13 of which were whiffs, right? Those 13 swing and misses were on his slider were the most since 2018 for him.
Where do you find that data?
So it was just a tweet. I think some random guy, Paul Hembo.
That's good little nuggets.
Yeah, but that's speaks to what you're saying. It's like, you know, he's found the. I'll argue that he's found the Chris Sale of the White Sox days more than like, you know, he had a little bit of fire with the Red Sox, but it wasn't like when he was coming off the White Sox starts where he was like lights out, and then he came to the Red Sox.
Yeah, and I think he's motivated. I think he realized this could be his last best shot.
Exactly.
And I think that has a lot to do with it. Let's talk about the Yankees. With the Red Sox, I got to give you my Jake Shackman.
Let's talk about. Was it Rafaela? Is that his name? He's playing shortstop now. Well, I mean,
you like him?
Well, first of all, the guy isn't really even a shortstop. He's played. He's like he's played a lot of positions, but he came to the Red Sox. He was going to play the outfield, right? And now all of a sudden the shortstop gets hurt, and now he's a shortstop. He's like your Mookie Betts, dude, and he's actually very good. He's doing very well.
Yeah, I mean he's not hitting very well.
No, but he's very good defensively for like not being a shortstop, really. So, I mean, I think that's a very positive thing, other than the fact that the Red Sox are, again, most say, overachieving. But like I said, I think they have something to people to prove wrong.
Yeah,
they
this
really
Rafaela kid, what I love is when you look inside it, you know, I would think of Bogarts, who I think was from Aruba. And, you know, I went to Curacao way back when I was just married, and, you know, Andrew Jones was a big deal. And they've been in the Little League World Series a ton. And it's just amazing to me that, like, even Rafaela, people don't know, he's from Curacao, right? And, like, he probably grew up idolizing Andrew Jones, and the guy's in the bigs. That island has got, like, very few. I don't even know what the residents of.
Yeah, because I think wasn't Aruba was Bogarts and Profar's down there and came from there. I'm not, maybe Ozzie Albies. I'm not too sure about him, but there's been a few good names that have come out of that area.
Curacao has a population of less than 150,000 people, and like just the fact that this guy, forget like when it happens with Venezuelans and stuff, I marvel at it. But like when you come out of these islands and you make it to the bigs, I find it just amazing.
Yeah, and they're big time. We've been to Aruba a bunch of times, and they got they've made their. I think Bogarts has a stadium there that he's helped build, and they got their pictures everywhere, and that's what people.
So we'll make Rafaela with a Jake Shackman positive thing of the day.
I just think it's amazing that he's doing that at that level. I mean, you don't just play MLB shortstop and play it good. Like you just don't.
You don't just right. It is fascinating. You know, I want to go to the Yankees because for all that talk about Aaron Judge, you know, he's got 8 home runs now. I mean, like. His numbers aren't.
He's coming alive, though.
I mean,
13 extra base hits. He's batting like almost 400 over his last 10 games. I mean, and the thing about Aaron Judge, if you're watching him recently, he's laying off the pitches that he was swinging at, the pitches off the plate, and he's starting to drive the ball to right field, right center field. And when Aaron Judge hits the ball hard to right center field, that's when he's on.
Well, it's amazing. Even talking about your son off mic, and then talking about Judge, like the peaks and valleys of baseball, it's just insane to me how you can be out there looking as lost as humanly possible.
Yep.
And then something clicks and all of a sudden you get on a roll, and then 2 months later you might be lost again. Like I'm amazed at how it just speaks to how hard it is, but like how you can never, it's like golf. It's the same thing. You can never perfect your swing and then learn how to repeat the exact thing in perpetuity. Like you just can't. And to watch people even at that level struggle is really weird.
And he struggled so hard out of the gates in a lineup that was like he was so dependent on the guy ahead of him to do good. And it was like, you know, and you think a lot of players would be, you know, it'd be tough for them where the guy in front of them is not the hometown captain and he's getting all the spotlight. But, you know, Judge, the Yankees are going to be real dangerous, man. If he starts going on the roll he's going, and then having Stanton healthy. I'm not going to say Stanton like doing Stanton things because we know he's not going to be stealing bases and legging out triples and all that.
He's just going to hit.
As long as he's healthy and they can stack that lineup the way it is, look out. And listen, Verdugo has been playing great. And the best part about it, they are whooping on the Stros. The Stros are a mess, dude. I love it.
What is it?
I
Did they
love
lose
it.
a couple pitchers?
Well,
to
they lost their
injury or
manager for one. They did lose some pitchers to injuries, and Verlander just came back. But listen, they sent Jose Abreu down to the minors. He went voluntarily. He was a former MVP. They signed him a big contract. Hader's been a bust, but listen, as much as Hader's been a bust, they haven't had a chance to win, right? Yeah. But I've never been a firm believer in Hader, anyways, because he was setting all these limits to I can only pitch this and pitch that. I mean, you don't want that guy on your team if he's going to be like that. And it's good to see. I mean, Tatuve's having a good year, Kyle Tucker's having a good year, but everybody else is kind of crap.
But even like as much as a year ago, like sometimes that team was scary, and then all of a sudden, and I think it probably has a lot to do with.
I mean, they're
pitching.
behind the Oakland A's. They're in the last place in the AL West, the Astros.
That's just crazy to me. But when I think of they
won like 14 games. 12 games, 14 games.
As of.
Yeah. But I mean, still, when you think about like you said, the perennial Astros, those are the guys usually are just like, they're 8 games up by now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like the fact that there's some different things going on in baseball. We can talk generally, and then I want to go back to the Oakland A's for a second. I'm pro Orioles. I mean, if I had any team in the AL East outside of the Red Sox that I root for, it's definitely the Orioles. The Central is going to have a good race, but I mean, I don't really care about any of those teams, and I'd like to see the Rangers get beat. I'd like to see Seattle do well, but I mean, I would love to see some rando team do well. But
the AL West is just so boring because Seattle is basically has been in first place just until recently. And they're not doing anything. Julio Rodriguez has 1 home run. He's not doing anything. Their pitching is what's been kind of carrying them.
Well, with Houston bad, there's not a lot of good teams in that division.
It's a pretty sad division. I mean, like you said, Oakland is. I mean, they're as we speak, they're 4 out.
That's crazy. And and they're drawing less than 10,000 a game, which is when we wanted to talk about attendance for a second. We'll talk about Paul Skenes in a minute, but since we're on attendance, I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable to me.
So their first game of the series that they had against the reigning World Series champions, a home game, they drew 2,800 was the official attendance on record. 2,800. Now there wasn't 2,800 people in the stands there. I would guess there was probably 1,200, maybe 1,400 tops. Picture of stadium that could hold 55,000 people. I think the Oakland Coliseum around there. Say 50, and there's 1,200 people. Even if there's 2,000 people. 3,000 people. That is so sad.
They're averaging less than 6,300 a game.
Yeah, and that's an inflated number too.
Well, I mean, the Yard Goats do better on average, probably when you count in all the summer months. And I just find, and that it's interesting because that made me look at attendance and see if you can name the top 5 highest averages in Major League Baseball for attendance.
Averages?
Home attendance.
Averages. I'll go the Cubs, the Braves, and I don't want to say it, but maybe the Astros.
That's 3.
That's 3, and then I don't want to say Boston because it's too small and they haven't been going there. And Yankee Stadium was a dump. Is it this season?
Average. Just this season. You suck at
Dodgers.
This, okay. So Dodgers number 1, averaging 46. San Diego, 38. Philly, 38. Atlanta, 38 and change, of course. Yankees just under 38. And then that's 5 right there. So St. Louis is out of the 5. Chicago's out of the 5. Boston's at 12. And the Dodgers, I would have guessed the Dodgers.
I would have guessed
I would have guessed the Yankees. I would have guessed Philly.
I blew it with Philly. I should have said Philly.
I would have missed the Padres, actually.
Yeah. I understand it, though. The weather
so nice.
is
but,
so nice.
Back in the day when Gwynn was hitting, they didn't draw 35.
Yeah, but that
game.
Stadium is so nice. It is so nice, and they do have a good product.
All right, let's do the bottom then. Give me the bottom 5.
Oh, well, we're going to say Oakland, Tampa,
2.
Colorado, and Florida.
That's 4. You got one more.
I said 3.
You said Oakland. You said
Colorado, Tampa, and Miami Marlins.
Right, so isn't that 4?
Yeah, you want another one? Oh,
yeah,
5.
5. The bottom 5 is what I
Sorry.
asked for.
Jesus, I'm trying to think. What's a crappy team? Not Seattle. Not. I'll go with Washington Nationals.
Okay. So Washington, no, they're 17. And actually, Colorado's 20. So
No.
The White Sox
Yeah, I should
are
have said the White
26.
Sox.
Kansas City.
Really?
Yeah, those are both averaging 16. Tampa, 15 and change. Miami, 12 and change. And then Oakland.
All right, so I got 3 of the 5. But the White Sox makes total sense. Kansas City is disappointing because they are a baseball. I mean, they do love their baseball out there. They put a lot of money into the team. The team's not bad. They're really good. Bobby Witt's a good draw.
My problem with a lot of these cities is that, like, there's no competition right now. Like in Boston, you could say, in New York too, you get the Celtics and the Bruins, you have the Knicks and the Rangers, but in Kansas City, there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
And it's to me, like, honestly, like at some point I talked to my wife. I was like, why don't we move to one of these cities? Because we were spending thousands of dollars every year to go to Red Sox games. I said, why don't we move to one of these cities and we can get season tickets for nothing and go to baseball games?
Totally.
It's like, it's crazy because Matt Soroyce and I, the guy who produces this and produces our morning show on WTIC, we do that a lot. We'll look at, like, say the Knicks are playing the Pacers. We'll look at the Knicks on StubHub, and then we'll look at the Pacers home games in the playoffs.
And what the difference is.
Oh, my gosh, it's unbelievable.
Night and day. Yeah.
It's unbelievable, the disparity of those kind of things. He's John Senecal. I'm Brian Shackman. This is Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports. Paul Skenes.
Paul Skenes.
Tell me, like, again, like, my life is nuts right now. I know he was a top pick.
Yeah.
I know he's in Pittsburgh, and I know they just called him up. He's a pitcher.
Yeah.
Where did he play college?
So he came from LSU, reigning national champions, Division I. He previously was at the Air Force Academy, and he grew up in a military family, went to Air Force Academy for 3 years, and then got into the transfer portal and went for his senior year at LSU. He's
not going to be a commissioned officer in the Air Force.
No, and he's basically he could be. I mean, he was a two-way player in college. He could hit in college, but then he focused mainly on pitching. Obviously, he was the number 1 draft pick, $9-point-something million signing bonus, the highest you can get now, and all the slotted money and everything. Lights out stuff.
He was doing well in the minors.
Yeah. So, like, all right, let's talk about his overall minor league numbers. I mean, they're crazy, dude. They're in his ERA is like 1 point, not even 1.
So could he have made it out of spring? Should he have made it?
I believe he could have made it out of spring training, and it just basically came down to service time stuff, in my opinion. But I mean, he's literally like the overall number 1 prospect. He has been the overall number 1 prospect, and all he's done is this year he's been in AAA and just mowing people down. Do you have his stats?
I don't.
I just have his grading. I just know. Listen, the guy is he has 100. He throws 100 miles an hour almost every pitch. Some of them are like over 100, 102. He's got 4 pitches. His stuff plays in the majors.
Got a mustache.
He's got a weird mustache.
Yeah, I don't like it.
It's like the tiny mustache.
He looks like a bigger Trot Nixon. He's 6'6", 235. He's 21 years old.
Yeah.
He was. I don't know. He started 7 games. Doesn't have his win-losses, weirdly enough, but he had a .99 ERA.
So his minor league stats, 1.85 ERA overall. Now,
that's overall. No,
he pitched last year.
This year was .99.
Yeah.
He had 27 innings pitched with 45 strikeouts and a whip of .91.
Okay, yeah. So overall,
it's .94 for his whip.
Yep. 12 starts overall, 34 innings, 55 Ks. So he's a strikeout pitcher, but he's also, he's intimidating. He's 6'6". And listen, he is the biggest hyped pitching prospect since Steven Strasburg. And he's
Are they going to manage him like Strasburg was managed?
I don't think so.
That was brutal.
I don't think so because listen, you also remember Strasburg. He was a player who went from being super out of shape and overweight into like this phenom pitcher. And this guy
he's always been a machine.
The exact different. He grew up in perfect shape. You know what I mean? He wasn't like some guy that had to get into shape. The big knock on Steven Strasburg was he going to be conditioned enough to even pitch in college, let alone excel in the Major League Baseball? And he had to work really hard at that. But it probably contributed to the fact that he broke down so quick in his career, too.
Well, so, I find the service time conversation really interesting because, back in the day, they used it to the max. They used they would send him down. They would want to maximize that. All those things they maximize. Yeah. But in this stuff surprises me. It came up with that other kid for Baltimore too. It surprises me because they sign these kids to huge bonuses now, and the money they spend on them, the team is incentivized to bring them up sooner.
Right.
And so I I think and now that they're signing him to these deals where they give him a premium to their salary that it could be as first, second year, third year players to get a couple of arbitration years back, like the 5-year,
Right.
$50 million deal that guy in the Red Sox got or whatever. I don't understand why they're still playing these stupid games is my point. Like, why do this to just get that half year or whatever on the kid when you're probably going to offer him a pretty big contract soon anyway? You want to get a couple arbitration years, so give him more money in the front end. Even though you just gave him $9 million, you're still going to do it. You're going to do that. Guy's going to sign a deal within the next 2 years that's going to give up a couple arbitration years for him to get more money now, and he'll end up being 27. Like, he signs a 5-year deal tomorrow. He's 27 when it's up, and he can still get the monster. I mean, I don't know why they screw with the kids like this.
I don't understand it either. I think it's more of like a safety net thing where if they do bring him up and he stays and they keep him in the minors, it's what is it? You have to 187 days typically in a major league season, and you have to play 172 of them to get a year. So basically 15 games. If you miss 15 games, you're done.
Doesn't that piss the kid off though? Like, or are they able to compartmentalize? Because I'd be like, why are they screwing with me?
I would think if you're the big prospect and stuff, and you're like, take Jackson Holliday, like you said, he was overperforming. Baltimore.
Yeah.
He was like overperforming at AAA. Shot through the minors in 2023, got to AAA in 2024, and was way overperforming. And he got up to the majors and had one hit,
right,
and like 50 at bats.
Right,
totally struggled. They sent him down, and he's doing okay in AAA. He's not doing great. He's doing okay. He hit his first home run just the other day, just recently, like within the last day, and he's been down for like 2 weeks, right? So, yeah, maybe it can mess with you, but I think it's more, like I said, I think it's a safety net for the club that they guarantee that they have at the very least, one more year of that player. So if he doesn't pan out or he gets injured and they have, say, Paul Skenes blows out his elbow and he's going to be on the shelf for 2 years, they can say, all right, well, now we still have 3 years of Paul Skenes, right? And if in that second year of him coming off of Tommy John, we can look at that, but if he still struggles, then maybe it's time to cut bait on him, and then someone else he's going to get him. I think it's more of a safety net thing than anything. But again, I think it kind of sucks because the way the media hypes it, and that's what they focus on. That's what they focus on. And then also when a player is doing good in the minors, it gets even more pressure. Like, you have to bring him up, and maybe that wasn't the right idea for Jackson Holliday yet. Yeah. But remember, Anthony Volpe was huge in spring training in 2023, and he really struggled at the plate in 2023. But the Yankees stuck with him, and he's rewarding him this year, but he struggled all season. They could have easily sent him down.
Well, I mean, his trajectory reminds me a lot of what happened with Pedroia. I mean, because we were working together, at our previous employer. I thought Pedroia was done. I thought he'd never be a big leaguer. And Volpe, I mean, I'm amazed at that, and so you do it. You'll find out if this kid in Baltimore is the real deal, because you'll find out if he can handle the adversity and get over it. And you might find out sooner than later. I don't think they're going to.
And the one thing is these guys got going for him is, Paul Skenes obviously is a little older, but Jackson Holliday's just turned 20. So there is a lot of.
Skenes is 21. It's not like it's a big difference, but yeah.
But Skenes did go. I would think
he went to college.
He went to college.
Yeah.
He's a little bit more mature, I would think. Who knows? Yeah. But that's my take on it.
So John Senecal, Brian Shackman here, his fan base, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports. So we watched the Derby as a family.
Yeah, we did too.
And we just like to do it. We like to pick the horses. And
a lot of pregame, huh?
Well, I mean, so I once covered the Derby when I was at CNBC, and they said, because the quick story here, it's an incredible story. Darren Ravel, who I worked with at ESPN, he was at CNBC as their sports business guy, and what he would do, because he covered all this stuff, he would basically, like for the Super Bowl, like he would go work there all week, but they'd have to reserve his hotel room. But on Friday, he went home.
Yeah.
So I remember I got to go to the Super Bowl because he gave me his hotel room because he still had to pay for it for Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And so he got me mindful of all this stuff. And so when I took over his sports business beat, I had never watched the Derby, and I didn't want to go home. So I did my work on Friday, and so CNBC said, if you can get on NBC Sports at any time on Saturday, we'll let you stay the extra day.
Yeah.
And so I went on the Derby coverage at like 1:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
for a 4-minute hit, and they let me stay. But the point is, they were on at 1:30 in the afternoon for a 6:30 race.
It's like Super Bowl coverage.
It's incredible. And we don't usually go. We sit down like maybe a half an hour before. But there I see Jayson Werth.
Crazy, right? You see,
I thought it was Jared Leto for a second.
Exactly. Everyone's walking in, and it's all the hubbub, and they're like, I love the interviews, by the way. Like, as they're walking.
They do a really good job.
They do. And the questions that they ask, it's like, I don't know anything about any of this stuff. And the voices are great. But then I look at this guy, and I'm like, this dude looks like The Undertaker or something. And all of a sudden, it pops up, Jayson Werth. I'm like, wait a minute.
But how did he get, was he hurt? Like, how did he get out of his game that day?
No, Jayson Werth doesn't play anymore. He's retired. He signed that. He was with the Phillies, went to the Nationals, won a World Series, signed that big contract with them. Jayson Werth had a pretty good baseball career, but he fizzled out his last year and a half with injuries.
So he's out of baseball. I thought he was still playing.
No. He's out of baseball, and he is the co-owner of. Its name's what?
Dornoch.
Dornoch, but it's Dornoch. So apparently he's a 10% owner in this horse, and it was a buy-in price was for him was like $30,000. It's $325,000 they paid for.
That's not a big buy-in.
Not a big in. Not right. So I'm guessing he said he got into horse racing from playing golf with his buddies, or he met at some golf event.
He's got money sloshing around like crazy.
Well, I'm sure he's got $30,000 sitting around, right? Yeah. And he's also a great figure to be the person talking about your horse and walking around looking like that, generating like what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I was like, damn, Jayson Werth. I'm like, he always looked a little squirrely when he played, but man, he's let himself go crazy.
The way his hair is like, it's like, just use some shampoo.
Yeah.
It's just kind of greasy.
And he's just, the attitude, it wasn't like he was a jerk, but it was just like that.
He's still cocky.
Yeah.
I was like, he was not that accessible, although they complimented his dress, how well he was dressed or whatever. But if you had, $25 million in the bank, it'd be pretty fun to buy in. And if you buy in enough, maybe you hit it.
And I read an article. He said that's way more stressful than any baseball that he ever had to deal with. Period. Is watching his horse race. And that horse, I looked, and it's had like recently, I think it's had two winnings in like the last 6 or 7 races. It's run.
I bet he's made his money back probably. Yeah. But the thing is that if you get lightning in a bottle,
you can win a lot of money.
Well, no, the reproductive rights is where you make the money. And so, I mean, if that horse won the Derby, probably, I mean, I'm not saying they wouldn't run the Preakness or the Belmont, but like if you retire that horse right away, you can. That horse can have sex at $50,000 a pop.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and like,
legal prostitution.
It's what it is, to be quite honest. So we'll end on that note. That horse noise brought to you by John Senecal. I'm Brian Shackman. This has been episode 151 of Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports.